Hey guys, what's going on? Mark here, and today is a special day because today is my very first Q&A video. So I decided to record this video because I get a lot of emails all the time, and a lot of the time people are asking me the same sort of questions, so I thought, why not just put them into a video? Now, before I get started, if you have a question that I don't answer in this video, don't stress, feel free to chuck it in the comments and I'll make sure I include it in the next one. Okay, so question number one, what software do you work in? I pretty much work entirely in Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator. These days I tend to do most of my sketching and initial work with Photoshop, especially if I'm using my Wacom tablet. It lets me kind of keep things rough and gritty, which is sort of the style that I like to have in my work. And then typically I'll bring that across to Illustrator afterwards and then vector it, whether that be with image trace or if I redraw it, with the pen tool if I need something that's a little bit sharper and more precise. Okay, the next question is, what do you draw or sketch with, paper or digital? Well, to be honest, I use both paper and digital. On the screen right now, you can see this is the time-lapse of a digital drawing I did. If I'm doing digital work, I would usually use a Wacom tablet. I have a Wacom Cintiq 13 HD, I believe it is. It's one of the ones with the screen, which I really like using. And I also still do quite a lot of work just on paper. Most of the time, I just use a Sharpie or a pencil and then scan it in and try and keep as much of that hand-drawn sort of quality to it as I can. So yeah, I try to mix up a little bit. Occasionally I do use some brush pens. I have some Zebra brush pens that I got from jetpens.com, I'm pretty sure. I have a few paint markers and a few other bits and pieces that I occasionally use, but for the most part it's pretty much always just Sharpies or my Wacom tablet. And if I'm using the Wacom tablet for my illustrations, I'll pretty much always use just the default brush that comes with it. And just have pressure sensitivity, and that's about it, except for when I'm using textures, which I'll probably talk about in a sec. And funnily enough, the very next question is actually about the textures I use. Were some of the images with textures yours or stock? Okay, so I have a mixture of different textures. Some of them are ones that I've created myself with things like rolled ink on paper. There's some that I've even just taken a photograph of some pavement or the asphalt road out the front. I actually have a video on my channel of me with a photograph of the road, and I show you guys how I actually turn that into a texture that I can put on my design, so feel free to check out my channel for that one. I have a mixture of different textures that I use. Sometimes I actually use a texture brush and sometimes I use an entire layer. Pretty much if I want to keep things really subtle and only want to include it to little parts of the design, like around the edges for example, then I'm more likely to use a brush for that. Again, these are like a mix of ones that I've purchased and ones that I have made myself. Ones that I have purchased that I would recommend, I would probably check out True Grit Texture Supply. If you just throw that into Google, you'll find them online. Those are pretty reasonably priced textures that I've used for a lot of stuff, so I'd recommend those. Another person I bought textures from is Rob Brink on Creative Market. From memory, he has some really good textures as well, especially some really nice screen print textures that I've used before. So yeah, definitely throw both of those in Google or ask me if you can't find them and I'll happily give you some links. So yeah, they're pretty good as well. Oh, and just for the record, just a disclaimer, I don't have any affiliation with either of those guys, so I'm not getting paid or anything like that. Okay, so next question is about how I make fonts and what software I use. So basically the process for making fonts starts with pencil and paper. So I'll actually sketch out the entire alphabet and all the punctuation numbers, all the glyphs and everything, then scan it in and basically vector every single one of those glyphs, get them all scaled and cleaned up and customized exactly how I want them. And then the software that I use to actually build the font is called FontLab Studio, which is available online. So yeah, and then from there, that's how you just generate the font files and adjust all the kerning and everything like that. To be honest, it's a pretty detailed process, so it's a bit much for this short video. But if enough people are interested in making fonts and learning how I do that, I'd be happy to just make a YouTube series about that process. So if you're interested in that, just let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can work something out. Okay, so the next question is about the different artists that
inspire me and basically just my favorite artists. So there's probably a few that come to mind. I mean, I have like a lot of designers that I follow and that I really like, but I guess if I had to pick my top three, the first one would be Dan Casaro from Young Jerks. Pretty much if you just Google Young Jerks, you'll find a lot of his work online. He's pretty much the lord of type. I just love the custom type work he's doing. So definitely check him out. Another artist I really like is Gemma O'Brien. She's a fellow Australian actually, and she's done some really epic work, lots of really cool murals and stuff as well, which I'm really interested in. One day I'd actually love to do a mural, so definitely check her out as well. And probably the third one would be John Contino, who I suppose a lot of people probably know. He's done just some of the most epic hand-drawn lettering and hand-drawn illustrations, and he's pretty much the king of having really gritty hand-drawn artwork that still looks really good, and he's worked for a lot of awesome brands that I'm pretty jealous of. So yeah, definitely would check his work out as well.
All right, last but not least, the dreaded question about money and how much I charge my clients and stuff like that, how much I charge for a design. I get asked this all the time by other designers and clients as well that are after work, which is totally reasonable. And to be honest, it's a really tough one to answer, because I've done projects that were worth a few $100 and I've done projects that are worth a few grand and stuff like that. It really just depends. It's really hard to just say, oh yeah, I charge this much for a design. It just doesn't work like that. I really have to try and find out more about what the actual design is, what it's going to be used for, who it's for, how many revisions might be included, and all these other factors that play a part. So I really like to try and talk to the client and actually talk to the brand and really work out exactly what they want before I can give them an exact quote. And if people are really interested in this, and especially if you're a designer and you're not sure about charging and dealing with clients and contracts and stuff, let me know, because I could possibly make a video series about this one as well and just talk about all the different stuff, quoting and revisions and dealing with deposits and copyright issues or stuff like that. So if that's the case, let me know and I'll make a proper video explaining my process for that and show you guys what I do for all of those things. All right, so yeah, those are without a doubt the most common questions I get. If there's something that I missed, by all means, like I said, just pop it in the comments. And if people are interested in asking more about my process and some of the other stuff about my designs, I'll be happy to make more of these Q&A videos and some more cool time lapses to go with them. Thanks a lot for checking it out, guys. And if you liked the video, I'd really appreciate it. And by all means, feel free to subscribe as well. Cheers.